Your next hour's booked, because The View is live. Trump on Roseanne. He's breaking his silence about her sitcom getting canceled. But what he's not saying is raising eyebrows. Choked Up. How a young boy's heartbreaking question to Sarah Sanders almost made her lose it. Then, trailblazing fashion icon Andre Leon Talley shares how he handled ugly racist taunts decades before Roseanne's rant.
They used to call me Queen Kong. I was a gay ape Queen Kong.
Plus, for the first time on television, Wookiees blowing our audience away with Frozen on Broadway's epic performance of Let It Go. Here come Hump Day Hot Topics with Whoopi, Sarah Haynes, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
So the guy in the White House broke his silence about Roseanne Barr's sitcom getting canceled. He tweeted that since Disney CEO Bob Iger called Valerie Jarrett to let her know ABC doesn't tolerate those kind of comments, he wanted to know where his apology from Iger for the stuff said about him on ABC. Now, he didn't say anything about the tweet itself that got Roseanne fired, but he was upset. So I'm not open to the table, but I'd like to just start by saying, you know, I think more people would not mind apologizing to someone who apologized. But this is a person who doesn't apologize to anybody for anything. So I sort of feel like you can apologize to the Khan family. You could apologize for the things you said about, you know, lots of different races and people that have come to you can apologize for what was said about your dad. I mean, I think apologies are made when someone feels that they need to apologize for something. And personally, I think that sometimes if you're taking a page out of someone's book, this is what it can look like.
But he says that he wants an apology for all the horrible things that are said about him on this network. Well, he doesn't seem to know the difference between criticism and racism. People criticize the president. That is the
That's
job,
part of the job
of the media, to criticize. Well, we criticized President Clinton. I was merciless to him and Monica for years. Bush got criticized on this show. Everybody. That's a job of the president, to accept the criticism like a man.
And learn from it.
And learn from it. It's different from racism, as you will be schooling me on in a second, I'm sure. No, really, I need to hear it, too, like every white person out there.
Well, I think it's similar to his confusion with fake news and news that he doesn't like. I don't know if he can see the difference between the two. He doesn't quite understand that fake news is made up to push a narrative that's created. It's false. It doesn't mean that you don't like the headline or you don't like the criticism or you don't like the feedback. Right. And that seems to be the same thing. He doesn't see the behavior as being inappropriate. He sees people that are critical of him as being the same.
And it's interesting that he made this about him, because this has always been about the fact that Roseanne Barr tweeted out an abhorrent, deplorable statement about a black woman, sort of comparing her to an ape, which is an age-old racist trope meant to dehumanize and make people like myself, that look like myself, feel bad about themselves. And that's what he should have been talking about. And if he's looking for an apology, I'd like him to apologize for what he said about Haiti. I'd like him to apologize for calling Haiti is the country of origin of my husband and my children. I'd like him to apologize for the lackluster, despicable response for Puerto Rico that led to the deaths of over 4,500 people. I'd like him to apologize for the fact that he threw toilet paper and paper towels out to the people of Puerto Rico when they were suffering. I want those apologies. And I think until he leads by example, he doesn't deserve apologies.
You think you'll ever get that?
I don't.
You know, my cultural experience since coming to ABC is fascinating because when you're the one Republican on the show, I always feel pressure to defend all Republicans. And there's a huge fracture in the party between Trump supporters and non-Trump supporters. Since the beginning of Trump's campaign, there have been extremely personal attacks on my family, on my father, that everybody knows about. Happened just recently, had to talk about it on the show. I don't like talking about my dad all the time, but he keeps being brought up in a rally last weekend. There were boos. It was elicited by President Trump at the rally. Obviously, I was promised an apology by Kelly Sadler publicly to my family, and that I did not receive that as well. So if we want to go tit for tat with apologizing, yes, this is not an administration that's capable of apologizing on their end. I will say that it's really good politics that they're doing right now because they're trying to change the narrative. Because as long as you're talking about Joy Behar in a press conference, you're not talking about all the other bad things that are going on. And it's easy sort of culture war things to do, which I recognize it very well. I've been in politics a long time. And it's a way to gaslight the American public to not focus on the real issues that we should be focusing on.
Yes.
So we should all try and be the example that they are not giving us, and don't get gaslit into taking your eyes off what's really important in the country right now.
The great thing about this show is that's one things we do. It's one of the things that we do on this show, and I just, you know, whether we're telling you to keep an eye out because regulations have been deregularized in banking, or whether we're telling you that women's issues are being sort of pushed down into the toilet. We try to let y'all know what's happening as we're seeing it. Now, you don't have to agree with it, but we feel it's important that we let you know it's there. But for this, I think, this particular thing, at least for me, you know, I understand that this is a lot of smoke and mirrors. You know, Mueller's out there. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. But the thing that I want to never stop saying is, the truth is, you apologize first, and we will take a page out of your book.
Yes.
Because that's what we expect from our children. That's what we expect from our friends who talk to us in ways that we don't
He
like.
doesn't even want the people who work for him. That woman who criticized, who said that horrible thing about your dad, she was not even allowed, it looks like, to apologize.
Even though she did it privately.
She still has her job. And again, this isn't about, it's uncomfortable because I don't want to make this about me and my dad.
No, it's not. It's about all of us.
But it obviously is something that...
It's about tone.
That obviously we would bring up.
And
but
it's about missed opportunity. This was a wonderful opportunity for this president to talk about the real racism that is going on every single day in this country, and people calling each other's names. I mean, we're talking about what happened at Starbucks. We're talking about, you know, things that black people live with every single day, like being called, you know, the police being called for just living while black. Barbecue. Why didn't he take this opportunity to talk about that?
Because as long as you're changing the subject to talking about Joy Behar, to talking about all the people that he thinks owe him his apology, you're not talking about that, and it's genius because it is dominating the news cycle right now. And I implore everyone, again, we should focus on the things that are really important.
You know what? This too shall pass, and people up there are working very hard on what's going on in this country. That gives me a lot of solace.
And there you are. That's it. We'll be right back with more Hot Topic.
Still ahead, Public Shameless, the cringy viral video that has some saying decorum is dead and gross. Today, we're going from red Hot Topics
Whoopsie-doo
to super chill Frozen. Let it go, let it go. The first ever TV performance of Let It Go from Broadway's smash hit Frozen hits the view today.
Same said person in White House who also had an Oval Office meeting with Kim Kardashian about prison reform, which the New York Post dismissed in their headlines as Trump meets Rump and the other big-ass summit. But Kim Kardashian has been actively fighting for a woman like Alice Marie Johnson, who's a 63-year-old great-grandmother serving a life sentence for a non-violent drug offense. Now, that's not the... I think there are two women that she's actively trying to help.
Yeah.
And isn't that worth something? I mean, it was worth something to her family and to her. Would you like to read her statements? I think you would. I think you would like her.
Yes. Alice Marie Johnson wrote to Kim thanking her. Miss Kardashian, you are literally helping to save my life and restore me to my family. I was drowning and you have thrown me a life jacket and given me hope.
Yeah. Nice.
And that, we were talking about this. You know, I put a lot of people in prison when I was prosecuting these cases. And she was involved in a coke ring. And that is that's significant. But I will say it was her first drug offense, her first conviction, and she was such a low-level drug offender. She's already spent 20 years in prison.
Yeah.
Isn't that enough, I think? And for the New York Post saying this stuff about Kim, I thought that was pretty despicable. The bottom line is, however she got her platform, she's using the platform for good.
Yeah.
She's using the platform for good.
And she said,
we should applaud that.
She said she found the story because she was on Twitter and she scrolled past it and she said, I knew it was meant to be that I saw that story because it touched her in a way that she reached out and she said, at this point in my life, I'm not into just going out and spending money on things. The idea of being able to save a life is what moves me. And I thought that's
what she said.
Yeah.
Read that.
To save someone's life and do that once a year, that would make my heart fuller. So I think for people that the Kardashians take a lot of heat for how did they become famous? They're, what are they using their platforms for? This is a great example of someone that read into this, decided it affected her and wanted to go make a difference.
And prison reform, I mean, we really need it. If you look at it, African-American women are incarcerated at the rate twice that of white women. African-Americans are put in prison for things that white Americans are not put in prison for. So this has been a problem for a really long time. Jeff Sessions is leading the Justice Department down the wrong path. He's going back to this war on drugs, which was ineffective. It didn't work. We're talking about mass incarceration. And if Kim Kardashian is the one to bring this to this president, who, by the way, I don't think she got the result that she wanted. He didn't do anything yet. But if she does, good.
But she's doing something.
I'm not crazy about the privatization idea of prisons.
Prisons.
Once money is a motivation, then a lot of bad things happen.
People are making money off the backs of black men in prison.
That's not good.
And off the backs of people who shouldn't be in prison.
Yes.
You know, I mean, when we look at all the things,
convictions?
the marijuana convictions are out of control.
And Van Jones really is at the forefront of this and has been for a long time.
He's been doing this for a long time.
Been giving props to the Trump administration about, their work on this. I will say that we should let women evolve. Kim Kardashian has 3 kids. She was held at gunpoint. She's a lot older now. She's married to a guy that, as we talked about, is going through some issues right now.
Yeah.
Nothing will make you look at your life in a more serious way. I think having 3 kids and being held at gunpoint will do it. Give her a break. She's trying. And everybody has to start someplace. And it's so misogynistic. I did a lot of stuff in my 20s. I remember one time I sent an Instagram tweet out at the time. It was talked about in this show. That's how racy it was. And I regret it to this day. But you learn from your mistakes. You learn from the mistakes you made in your 20s. Let her be in this zone. It's okay. Let these people do these things.
What about the Post?
And we will be right back. Welcome back. Now, FEMA had the official toll of Puerto Rico's hurricane victims at 64. But a Harvard study found the number of dead is closer to 5,000. Now, the White House is supporting FEMA, saying it was the largest disaster response in U.S. history. Really? But how can the numbers be so far apart?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for it.
Okay.
But I think what is really difficult for me is that hurricane season in Puerto Rico starts on Friday. And if you are being this disingenuous with the information and with the numbers, we can't learn from what happened. And it's, timely and accurate estimates of death tolls are critical to understanding disasters and recovery and response. And if you have this administration saying, we got a 10, when it comes to our response. This was the best response in disaster history. That is not good enough. People died. We're talking about over 4,500 people died, and a lot of those deaths, I would say the majority of them were preventable.
So in other words, you're going to believe me, you're going to believe your eyes.
Yeah. Well, can I read you something?
Yeah.
It took 3 weeks after Maria to get a response, because after Harvey, FEMA took 6 days to deploy 73 supply helicopters. 9 days after Harvey, FEMA delivered 5.1 million meals and water to Houston. But 9 days after Maria, FEMA hadn't delivered half that much, and they approved many millions less in assistance. So I don't know that that it was as good a response as they thought it was.
It wasn't. You guys remember when I went to Puerto Rico for The View, there was a woman, her name is Blanca. She got a letter from FEMA. Her whole life was destroyed. Her home was completely destroyed. I walked through her house, and they gave her a $500 check. I remember. They said that was all that they could do. What kind of response is Sarah Sanders talking about? Why is this the best response in U.S. history? And don't we deserve better?
You know something? Puerto Ricans do not vote in the presidential elections. Just saying.
It's true. And I hope that's not a reason why the island got such short shrift.
They have delegates at the convention, though, which is significant.
I know there were logistics with getting there because
it's an island.
It's an island.
Yeah, because it's an island. But the fact that private citizens could get planes there is kind of contradicts that problem there. I know, again, a little delay is fine. The electricity wasn't even around for months.
Water, electricity, and there are still parts of the island that don't have it.
11,820 homes and businesses still without power. Tens of thousands of homes still don't have roofs.
It's been over 8 months.
There needs to be some media culpability on this, though. And I looked up some of these stats. According to Media Matters, cable news covered Roseanne for 10 hours and the death toll in Puerto Rico for just 30 minutes. CNN, 10 minutes. Fox News, 48 seconds. MSNBC, 21 minutes. So part of it is the onus is on the media to do their job covering it as well, because I certainly didn't know any of this, and there's a huge difference between a death toll of 64 and 4,645. And I think that it's interesting that we seem to lose interest in disasters when the media changes its focus. But
the government shouldn't lose interest.
No,
the
I'm
government
just giving
shouldn't
you
lose interest.
There's a difference between a conversation and just do it, just fix it. That's why the media doesn't pay attention as much, because it's like with the Roseanne story, there were many aspects to it. With this, it's like just fix the damn thing.
This is the government's job.
And the other thing is, I think part of what you're saying, one of the reasons it was kind of like this with everybody was because there was so much destruction from the U.S. Virgin Islands to Puerto Rico to Houston to Florida. I mean, it's just kind of been a little overwhelming, and I think people forgot. But we're coming into the year.
Hurricane season's on Friday.
The year anniversary of this. So we should be talking about it now and figuring out what we can do to help the folks who actually still don't have anything. How can we help? We'll see if we can help you figure it out. We'll be right back. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors face off in Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight right here on ABC. Good luck to both teams. I went to see Once on This Island last night. If you do nothing else, go see it. It's amazing. It's wonderful. The cast is spectacular and marvelous. And anyone, I mean, seriously, they're like kicking butt. It's really wonderful. And anyone who is worried that public decorum is dead probably won't feel much better after seeing this viral video out of Florida. Take a look.
Girl, look at her. She is shaving. Oh my God, this lady is shaving in the pool. The hair. Oh, I hope she don't shave her next.
So my question is, when did this stuff become the norm? When did stuff like this become stuff that people just said, oh, yes, this is a good idea. I'm going to shave my legs at the pool.
At the pool. and dip the shaver. Dip the razor in it, and then you continue. She was like cleaning it. Kids were there. When I was a kid, I didn't learn how to swim until I was an adult. I learned how to swim about 5 years ago.
So that hair would have drowned you.
I'd have been a mess. I'd have been a mess. But the reason I didn't learn is because I grew up in the Bronx, and my mom always said that the public pools were dirty and nasty and disgusting.
Which they are not.
And they are not. But then when you see that, you're like, I mean, my mom was all over this. She was like, see? That's why you didn't know how to swim. Because look at that. Blah, blah, blah.
But the good thing about it is it makes people who pee in pools feel better about it.
Right? And the other thing is, to what you're saying, Whoopi, is, you know how pools always have those signs, no diving, no running, no loud music?
Yeah.
When did we get to the point that just because it's not on there, you think you should do it?
Well, there's a lot of little bigger lists they could come up with.
Who does that?
Well, the same people, I guess, that would leave a turd in a pool. I mean, you wouldn't do that. I mean, you wouldn't do that, would you? Or would you? I mean, who knows now? See, this is the stuff we got to start working on, people.
This is the thing. The next time you think about doing something like that, or there was a man clipping his fingernails on the subway near me a few days ago. I almost took video of it to show on the show, and then I was like, I feel bad about publicly shaming a person, but
just
clearly
cut out his head.
that pool lady.
We're shaming you. We're shaming you, sir. We saw your clippings. We don't like it. We'll be right back.
Andre Leon Talley set the style for the entire world.
He's the Nelson Mandela of couture.
Now, he's sharing how he handled racist rants Black Americans are still dealing with next.
They used to call me Queen Kong. I was like an ape. I was a gay ape Queen Kong.
Tomorrow on The View, get ready for
Friday.
Because the weekend starts early with an entire day of red-hot topics. And you know with Anna Navarro co-hosting, anything goes. Tomorrow on The View. Let's go!
The extraordinary Andre Leon Talley shared just how many glass ceilings and racial barriers he had to bust through before taking his place on the throne of high fashion in the fantastic new documentary, The Gospel According to Andre. So please welcome one of the most magnificent men on the planet, my friend, Andre Leon Talley.
Thank you.
I know the documentary was #1 over the weekend, but you heard the Roseanne's tweet, and it really hit you hard because you've had this experience. Explain to us.
Well, early in my career, I was in Paris, and I went into Paris when I was about 28, and I was at the top of the height of my career, covering fashion for Women's Wear Daily. I was the fashion editor of a magazine. I had the first front row everywhere, and the public relations director of Yves Saint Laurent, her name is Clara Saint. She's still with us. She's retired. She was going around calling me Queen Kong. And it came back to me through a best friend of hers, who was my best friend, Paloma Picasso, you know, the famous daughter of the famous painter. And she told me this, and I bottled it up and I internalized it. That was in 1978, and then I decided, I was sitting in the Vogue archives one day, and they were filming me, and I was looking at old pictures of Vogue, and it just came back up, that memory. I had never articulated to anyone, not in my family, my church, none of my best friends, and I decided to let that come out.
Wow. Did you ever tell her you didn't like it?
Oh, I never spoke to Clara Saint again.
Well, she's still alive. Maybe.
But she's still alive. No, I don't. She's bitter. She's still alive, and she's alone in Paris because she had a boyfriend that was taken away from her. You know, it was manipulated from her to...
I meant to give him back.
But that kind of thing does stay with you.
Yeah. Well,
It hurt me very, very, very. And karma is, it will bite you in your butt.
It will bite you.
The way it's biting Roseanne in her butt, because listen, she called Valerie Jarrett an ape. You call us monkeys, and you're the monkey on the limb with no job. She got no job. ABC did it correctly.
That's right. So you also had to endure rumors that you were sleeping around.
Oh, there were all kinds of rumors. Oh, when I was young, one of my bosses came to me one day in front of everybody in the office and said, "It's rumors, are you sleeping in every designer bed in Paris?" That would be a lot of the beds to fill. And I thought, I was very quiet. I went to the Madeleine Church. I thought about it, meditated, famous church in Paris where Marlene Dietrich was eulogized and funeralized and Coco Chanel. And I then went back to the office and retired. I resigned. I sent a letter of resignation notarized by the American Embassy.
Because of the rumors.
Because of my boss saying that to me, to demean me, to demoralize me, to make me feel small. I was so on top of the world. People loved my point of view. They loved me. I was skinny, tall, and glamorous. And they wanted me to be put down. And he said, rumors are you are sleeping in every designer's bed. I was not sleeping in any designer's bed. Never slept in a designer's bed except as a guest, in a guest bedroom. Without the designer.
Yeah. So you resigned.
I resigned. I resigned the most important job I had in my youth. Women's Wear Daily. I was the bureau chief in Paris, and I resigned by a letter of notarization from the British Embassy, because I didn't want those people to put me down and say, oh, you know, he was caught stealing from the petty cash. Oh, he didn't return the samples.
Yeah. Would you do the same thing today? Resign?
I certainly would. I would certainly would. I most certainly would. And that was the decision of courage.
Yeah.
Joy. I was under 30 and alone in Paris. I didn't have my grandmother. I didn't have my friends, no minister. And I didn't tell anyone I was going to resign. I went away for the weekend. I thought about it. I came back and wrote the letter, walked to the British American Embassy, had it notarized, and delivered the letter.
Right. Wow.
No, Andre, you're one of the only black men whose position has such a big position of importance in fashion, climbed to the top. Do you think things are getting better behind the scenes with diversity in fashion?
It's a slow burn. It's like cooking chitlins. It's like you're putting on a pot of chitlins for New Year's Eve or Christmas Day. It's a real slow burn. Honey, it's chitlins. If y'all ever knew how to cook chitlins, it take all day.
Because you got to clean them first.
And it's a slow burn, I must say. Edward Innenfeld, who was named the editor-in-chief of British Vogue, he's black, and he called me, I sent him an email saying congratulations, and he said, you've paved the way. I mean, from me to 1978 to then, that was like a slow burn. It's very, very slow, the evolution of black people of prominence in the fashion industry.
Behind the scenes, there are models.
There are top models.
But that still took a while.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
Well, I saw your documentary last night, and it is fantastic.
Oh, thank you, son.
It is so wonderful. I didn't understand your story. Of course, I knew who you were, but I didn't understand your story. We see your journey from growing up in the segregated South to becoming really this icon in the fashion industry. Where did your love of fashion start? Because even Anna Wintour says you are it when it comes to fashion. You're an encyclopedia.
Well, I think it came from my grandmother. I think my grandmother had great style. She never read a cookbook. She never read a book about how to garden. She drew beautiful geraniums in terracotta pots. And my grandmother gave me unconditional love. So the man you see today is thank you to my grandmother that you see the man who's sitting here on your set today. Wow. And, you know, you always, as Toni Morrison said, it's the foundation of your ancestors that makes you, that you go on. And that's where I got my first love of fashion, by sitting and watching her prepare for church every Sunday, every Saturday. She was the best dressed lady in the church with not a lot of money. She had one suit. That suit was in her closet for 30 years. I remember she had it when I was young. And then when I took her on the first plane ride, she wore that black suit, and it was a black suit that stood her for 44 decades. Wow. And she just was a pillar of strength in our family. And she gave unconditional love, and she gave me the values of the church. Had I not been brought up in the church, I might have been over there in one of those rehab centers or someplace, you know.
You know what?
Still like
that is not even true. Your foundation, please, child. He would never look bad. See, that's why he would not let himself look like somebody who needed to be in rehab. He's too fine.
This is fascinating.
Well, I just had this made for you all for Dapper Dan today. I had it made for 24 hours. I had this made for the video.
You have to come back and co-host with us.
Oh, I will. I would so love to. I would so love to. I would be so fun. So much fun. Yes, whatever you want.
Andre's documentary is extraordinary. The Gospel According to Andre is in theaters right now. If you get an opportunity, go have a really good time and take a look at it. It's really fabulous. We'll be right back. Thank you.
For the first time on TV, Whoopi's wowing our audience with a Broadway performance of Frozen's monster showstopper, Let It Go. Are you ready? Next.
So last week, we surprised our audience with tickets to the Tony-nominated Broadway show Frozen. But that wasn't the only surprise we had in store for them. Take a look. Have you noticed there are buses outside? You notice that? Well, right now, we're taking you over to the St. James Theater to see a sneak peek of Frozen on Broadway.
Let me hear you guys.
Never met someone who thinks so much like me. Takes things again. Our mental synchronization can have but one explanation. You and I were just meant to be.
I want to welcome you to the St. James Theater. That's where Frozen is playing, and that's where we are today. The cold never bothered me anyway. And so, you ready? No, you're not. No! Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, Frozen!
The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see and do, to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go.
Well, Casey, you have a show in a few hours.
I do.
So, what are you doing here?
Well, I just thought I'd come hang out. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we just loved having you at the St. James last week with us, with your entire audience, and it was so special for us at Frozen. And I know you gave that audience tickets to the show, and we just thought it was only fair that we extend the same invitation to this audience.